Welcome back to Christianity Explored. It's great to have you with us this morning. Today we're in week 3 of the course. If you're watching these talks as part of the Christianity Explored course, then you'll have hopefully been able to look at the booklet this week. You'll have had a chance to look through Mark's account of the life of Jesus. Some of the work that you have to do is in that booklet. And hopefully you've had a chance to have some of your questions answered. The booklet itself is on the screen there. If you haven't seen one of those and would like one, you can order them. And you're already probably watching it on the live stream, but if not and you want to catch up, what you see up there is what is the link to go to look on YouTube for that. Lots of talk, isn't there, about what's going to happen at Christmas this year. And we're able to celebrate. Will we be able to celebrate? I've heard that they're going to change the tier system so that we can perhaps get together over Christmas. Who knows? We need some cheer. So we've the good news is that Christianity doesn't cancel Christmas, even if coronavirus seems to. We've still got a reason to celebrate. And so here at All Saints, we've come up with some creative ways to work around the restrictions, whatever they might be, this Christmas. So here's a little sample.
Hi Ben, what's the matter, mate?
Mum made me wear this.
She made you wear that Christmas hat. Why has she done that?
She's getting ready for Christmas or something.
She's getting ready for Christmas already? It's November the 15th. She needs serious help. Why is she doing that?
It's a notice for church for...
All Saints Lose Family News.
Didn't you just sound like Chris Tom? How on earth did you do that?
Don't know, it's a gift.
Okay, are you ready for scene 2? Too much?
What on earth is going on, Jen?
Basically, here's my thinking. Christmas is going to look really different this year. There's loads of stuff that we can't do. Can't do the carol service, can't do Christingle, can't do the YMCA. I know, but they're not COVID safe, Ben. But we've got some awesome ideas of ways that we can celebrate Christmas together this year.
Like what?
Well, shall I tell you about it?
Tell us.
Okay. Mom, do I have to do this?
Caleb, you have to do this. It's for All Saints Lose Family... Hang on, why don't I sound like Chris Tom?
You mean?
All Saints Lose Family News.
He's so unfair.
Okay, idea number 1 to make Christmas really fun for us as a church is a giant advent calendar. The plan is that every day on our website, someone from church will be reading a piece of scripture to help us prepare for Christmas. So there'll be 24 households involved, and it will also coincide with launching our new website. I know! So exciting!
Oh, that's quite cool. Seriously, Mum.
Okay, it's for the church news.
What, you mean?
All Saints Lose Family News.
Seriously? How can everyone sound like Chris Tom? I'd love to sound like him.
Some of us are born with talent. What are the other ideas?
Okay, idea number 2 is a nativity walkabout. This will be on Christmas Eve instead of our Christingle, and it will involve being outside, so it's COVID safe. There will be different stations of the nativity. People will have clues that they have to follow, and it's just going to be a great way to bring the community together, to get people excited about learning about the significance of Jesus. It's a big idea, and it will involve lots of people, so this is just a heads up now to keep Christmas Eve free, so that when we ask for your help, you are on board.
I mean, how can this get any more ridiculous?
Yeah.
Okay, Christmas idea number 3 for All Saints Lose. This is Carols on Your Corner, and what it involves is posting an invitation through the door of your neighbours along with a whole load of a carol sheet, and then Tim and the band will turn up on your street with a kind of blinged up trailer ready to sing Christmas carols with everyone. Everyone loves carols, and it's a brilliant way to build on the relationships that you've maybe been making more of during the last few months that we've been going through. So there you go, 3 ideas to make Christmas a fab time together for All Saints Lose.
Thanks, Jen. That's fantastic. Really looking forward to these exciting Christmas activities.
So let's turn our attention now to look at our Christian faith, to look at the Christian faith that we've been looking at over the last few weeks. Of course, Christmas is every bit a part of that, every bit a part of where, if you like, Christianity began in terms of what we see here on earth. And our next topic in the Christianity Explored course, you can find it on page 24 in your participants' handbook. If you want to follow along, that's page 24. And you'll find there an outline of the talk. So I wonder, the phrase, "oh, it's just human nature." It's often used, isn't it, to explain the way people behave. Maybe you've used the phrase yourself, "oh, it's just human nature." But I wonder, have you ever wondered or ever stopped to think, what exactly is human nature? What is a good definition of human nature? We use it, but what does it actually mean? What do we mean when we say it? What do we expect of human nature? I wonder what you think of the human nature when it comes to stockpiling toilet roll or eggs at the start of a coronavirus pandemic. When humans are under pressure, often that human nature is exposed, isn't it? The question is really, are we surprised? Does it surprise us when we see that kind of selfish behaviour in humans, in those around us? Selfish stockpiling in a crisis? Actually, no surprise to the Bible. Exactly what God tells us to expect as a result of human nature. Now, today's subject is not an easy one. If you like, it's the bad news before the good news. And in a way, I'd much rather to sort of have a title for this talk as the one I'd rather not have to give, because that is what we're talking about today. If this is your first time with us today, it's going to be a difficult talk to be the first one that you hear. So last week we asked, who was Jesus? Today we turn our attention to another vital question. Why did Jesus come? I see my slides are miles behind. And now not working. Okay, Tim, you're going to have to operate it for me, thank you. Why did Jesus come? That's the question for today. Perhaps peace on earth, the kind of Jesus of the Christmas carols. Maybe to cure diseases, Jesus the great healer. Perhaps world peace, to reform society, Jesus the great teacher. There is a bit of truth in all of those, but it's not what Mark's gospel says. According to Mark, the reason Jesus came was to cure a problem we all have, a heart problem. See, when we look at our world, our lives, lots that's good, of course, lots about our world to celebrate. But I guess an honest assessment couldn't see it as all good. The 20th century tells us that 100 million people died violently in those 100 years. More than died in the previous 19 put together. Violence today, of course, continues in Yemen, Syria, Afghanistan. The Bible claims that the reason the world is not the way it's supposed to be is because we're not the way we're supposed to be. This human nature is the heart of the problem. And that's why Jesus came. See, it will grate against our pride, won't it, to think that we have this problem. We might concede that some people are evil people, murderers, rapists, perhaps paedophiles, but not us, and certainly not our family and our friends. Basically, they're good people, aren't they? A few faults here and there, but basically good people. Though we're not aware of it, actually our culture has bought into philosophies that teach just exactly that humankind is essentially the humanist assessment. Here it is being explicitly stated, a little bit like the PM's broadcast. I'm rather hoping the slides are being advanced as I'm talking. They are, good. So here she is. The humanist view of life is progressive and optimistic. in awe of human potential, living without fear of judgment and death, finding enough purpose and meaning in life, love, and leaving a good legacy. I find that an unbelievable level of faith, actually. Absolutely astonishing, isn't it, in the light of the evidence to the contrary. Here is one of society's influential thinkers, Polly Toynbee. She's a writer for The Guardian, as well as the British Humanist Society's leader. That is the thinking of those that influence the way our country and world thinks. That's the thinking behind what might be called a secular worldview. And even if we agree that doesn't look quite right and acknowledge that we're not all good, we're probably still confident that our good points maybe outweigh our bad points, that we're good enough maybe for God, if there is a God. I think we need to ask the tough question, what are we really like? What are you and I really like? So imagine for a moment I had here, that I could put up onto the screens in front of you, a PowerPoint with an account of your life. Every day recorded, 15th of August 1987, 2nd of October 2006. I don't know, 20th of March 2020. Who knows, you were probably locked in at that point, weren't you? And I could put it up on the screen here, so that you can see it on YouTube. In fact, the whole world could see it on YouTube. It's a complete and true account of your life, not only of everything that you've ever said and done, but also everything you've ever thought. Wonder how you're feeling now once I start to add that bit. Even the motives that you've had for some of the things you've done, revealed there for everybody to see. Now, I'm sure, I hope, there'll be lots to celebrate. I'm sure there are lots of loving relationships, real achievements, loving gestures, acts of kindness, moments of generosity, selflessness, perhaps flourishing career, loads of lovely things that would be worth celebrating. But can I say, if it were my life I was putting up on the screen for you all to see, there would be stacks I would feel pretty uncomfortable about showing to everyone who's watching. I wonder if I would be alone in that. How comfortable would you feel if everybody could see every thought that you've ever had, every motive? Which slide would you like me to skip if it was a PowerPoint? Which day? Maybe it's something that no one knows about, not even your closest friend or your spouse. See, and it's not just the things that we've said and done that are the problem, the things we should have done, and the people that we should have helped, they would be up on the screen as well. The times when we thought no, when really it should have been a yes. Everything exposed for everyone to see. Like I said, if that was my life, it would be a nightmare. There'd be no way I could stand here with you seeing that. So the question is, why are we like this? Why so much to be ashamed of? Jesus gives us an answer in Mark chapter 7. So if you've got a Bible or one of those little Mark booklets, we're going to look at Mark chapter 7, verse 20. So I'll give you a moment just to look that up if you'd like to. It will be on the screen. Mark chapter 7, verse 20. Also gives me a minute to look it up as well. Mark chapter 7, verse 20. This is Jesus speaking. He went on, "What comes out of a man is what makes him unclean. For from within, out of men's hearts, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside, and make a man unclean." You see, the issue with what makes someone unclean in God's eyes, what makes someone unacceptable to God, the Pharisees, that they seem to be blaming external things, what you touch, where you go, what you eat. But Jesus says the problem is closer to home. Now, maybe you feel indignant about the things Jesus says in that text. It's not how people usually talk, is it, about wrongdoing? We're used to hearing people in public life calling the wrong things they've done a mistake. It gives the impression that their affair, vis-a-vis adultery or stealing perks of the job or bullying MPs, wasn't intentional. It was something that sort of came upon them. But Jesus says that's nonsense. Sin is not something that you and I come across that's out there and unintentionally get caught up in. It's something that I discover in here, in my heart. We have to look within and take responsibility for what we see. Jesus says the problem comes from within, from our hearts. And to see how Jesus includes all of us, he doesn't just mention immorality, theft, murder and adultery. There's also greed in there, isn't there? And envy and slander and arrogance. Now, some sins make front page headlines, of course, but some don't. But they're all wrong in God's reckoning. And they all come from inside you and me. If we could see the PowerPoint of our lives up on the screen, we'd see that we all have a heart problem. The problem, our hearts, that's what makes us unclean. Trace all of the evil in the world back to its source, and we wind up back with the human heart. I don't know if you know of the Times competition so many years ago, but they ran a competition for an essay. And what they were asking people to write was an essay in response to the question, what is wrong with the world? That's what they asked for. Anyone could submit an essay and they would judge them and pick what they thought was the best one. And the winning essay just contained 2 words, I am, from G.K. Chesterton. And he just simply wrote, Dear Sirs, I am G.K. Chesterton. The heart of the problem is the problem of the human heart. See, why do we find it so hard to do the right thing? Why is it so difficult to keep good relationships good? Why do we hurt the people that we love the most? Why can't we automatically love each other? Because we've all got this heart problem. I remember a conversation I had with someone after a talk I'd given, and he objected that in the talk that I'd suggested that we've all been liars and probably will be again. His opening salvo to me was, how dare you call me a liar? Now, I obviously employed my best calming down techniques to try and sort of have some dialogue with him. And he asked me, I asked him, I said, have you ever told a lie then? And he said, of course I had. But he followed it straight up with a statement, but that doesn't make me a liar. You'll appreciate my confusion. Maybe like that man, you're sitting offended that someone might dare to suggest that you're not as good as you claim to be. But you may be saying to yourself, I'm not that bad. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm not as bad as all that. See, it's not just how we treat each other that God cares about. We treat God often as a footnote to our lives that he has given us. We're going to turn to Mark chapter 12. Mark 12, he sets an impossible benchmark about how we should relate to God. So this is Mark 12, verse 20. I'll put it up on the screen. Actually, it's verse 30. Mark 12, verse 30. And he writes this, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. Since God made us, sustains us, gives us every good thing we enjoy, and since he has power and authority over our lives, how should we respond to him? Jesus tells us our response should be to love him. And the really scary word, I think, in all of that sentence is the word all. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. So no part of our lives withheld from God. He is to have all of everything. But actually, he's often had all of nothing, hasn't he? We decide exactly what we'll do with our hearts, our soul, our mind, and our strength. We'll give our heart to all sorts of things, but probably not to God. That's all the Bible means by sin. Simply someone who knows he's not let God be God, relates to God in the wrong way, rebels against God. But what does this have to do? Do you remember our topic? What does it have to do with Jesus' purpose? Well, you see, Jesus came to cure our heart problem. In chapter 2, Mark tells us what happened when Jesus had dinner at Levi's house. Now, Levi was a tax collector, which meant that he worked for the Romans. He would have been seen as a traitor by his peers, the Jewish people, and a sinner by the religious leaders. So why is Jesus having a meal with him? So turn with me to Mark chapter 2. It is on the screen. Mark chapter 2, verse 15. While Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. When the teachers of the law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with the sinners and tax collectors, they asked his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said to them, "It's not the healthy you need a doctor, but the sick. I've not come to call the righteous, but sinners." So we've got two groups of people, the good guys and the bad guys. The bad guys, they seem to be people like Levi in that story, don't they? Taxmen. They've never been popular, still not today, are they? No different. So tax collectors, they're working for the Romans. They used the money to run the state. And Jesus felt that they were cheating their fellow Jews out of their hard-earned cash, betraying God's people by working for their Roman occupiers. So the good guys then, they seem to be the religious figures of the day, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. They looked impeccable, whiter than white in religious terms. The question is, who would you expect to Jesus to be hanging out with? The vicars or the taxmen? Instinctively, we'd expect him to want to be with the good guys, wouldn't we? The religious elite. But Jesus says no. It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I've not come to call the righteous, but sinners. The big shock, you see, at this dinner party is actually who's on the guest list. Verse 17, Jesus says, "I'm a doctor, and as a doctor, I'm interested in the sick, because they know that they need me." It's obvious, isn't it, that doctors don't dish out medicine to the healthy. We don't go near a doctor until we're ill, and for most blokes, we don't even go then. So Jesus says here, if you think you're righteous, if you think you're healthy, then you won't think you need me. People who think they're righteous don't need me. No, says Jesus, I've come for sinners. I've come for people who realise they're living as rebels in God's world. Jesus makes it quite clear. He's interested in people who realise they're bad, not in people who think they're good. Do you see, the qualification for coming to Jesus is not, are you good enough, which is what a lot of people think. I'm not good enough for church. I'm not good enough to be a Christian. That's not the qualification, but rather, are you bad enough? He's come for sinners, not for those who think they're righteous. See, that's the answer to the question, why did Jesus come? Jesus came for people who know they have a heart problem and know they need him to cure it. I suppose the question is, why does our heart problem matter so much? Why is it such an issue? Some will remember that December 1984, there was a horrendous fog on the M25 motorway. It was early in the morning, and a truck carrying paper crashed and blocked the carriageway. The warning lights on the gantries were quickly put on for miles ahead of the area to stop the traffic. Unfortunately, the police arrived on the scene to carnage as driver after driver continued onwards, ignoring the overhead warning signs, and because of the fog, unable to see the reason why they were stopped, why they should have stopped. So car after car after car ploughed into this pile-up. The police, realising what was happening, became so possessed with fear at this ongoing carnage and loss of life that they drove back up the hard shoulder and pulled up and proceeded to throw traffic cones at the windscreens of approaching vehicles in an effort to get them to stop, to wake up and to stop driving into the back of the pile-up. One newspaper at the time reported the event, how one police officer with tears running down his face just threw cones at driver after driver who would not stop, trying to get their attention. As Jesus speaks here in Mark's Gospel, it is with tears streaming down his face. He's throwing cones at the windscreen and saying, "Stop, will you stop?" So let's look at it. Mark chapter 9. Mark 9, verse 43. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life maimed than with two hands to go into hell, where the fire never goes out. And if your foot causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life crippled than to have 2 feet and be thrown into hell. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with one eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell. It's not comfortable reading, is it? Not easy to read. Surely hell is a fictitious fantasy, isn't it? Well, it seems that Jesus believed it. He's using the shock of the physical to make a point. He's saying that hell is for those who would say, nobody tells me what I can do with my hands. That hell is for the person that says, nobody tells me what I do with my feet, thank you very much. Nobody tells me what I can do with my eyes. Do you hear me, God? Nobody. Nobody tells me what I do. I make my own decisions. I am the master of my fate. Of course, I hope we recognise that that is precisely the thinking that causes the mess that we make of our world. We don't want anything to do with God and his morality. The thing is, God will honour that decision. If we want to know what God is going to do about all the suffering, all the wrong in our world, there's the answer. The wrong in our world comes about because of the wrong in our heart. And it will get sorted out. If we want to live without God in our lives, then ultimately God honours that decision. Well, I'll be honest, it's not easy to show you these words of Jesus. God takes no pleasure in allowing people to go their own self-destructive way. The reason Jesus warns us about hell is because he loves us and he doesn't want us going there. According to Jesus, we should do anything we can to avoid it. See, the harshness of this passage is Jesus throwing cones at our windscreen, saying, world, will you stop destroying yourself by going your own selfish way? You can see why I don't like this talk in the programme in that sense. But let me assure you that the Christian message is incredibly good news too. But it is on the back of this kind of honest assessment of what we're really like that makes it such good news. It's why we need Jesus to rescue us, why he came. As he himself said, I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. But we have to wait till next week to see how he does that.